and welcome to the semi-final stage of ושיג Debate Competition 2015.
Hello, my name is Yasmin and I am the Prime Minister. Today we have a big problem. The phenomenon of public shaming is huge nowadays and we've all heard about it all over the news and all over the social networks. Public shaming is when, for example, you upload a video or a picture of a person's actions which are usually morally wrong and criticize it on the media without informing to the authorities. When uploading these kinds of media, you usually show just a very small part of the big picture, and and this causes the people who see it judge unobjectively because they don't see the big picture. This can end badly, and we have a lot of examples for it that we will present them during the debate. So we will not allow any form of public shaming, and we will establish a special team who will try to find those kinds of things and give the proper punishment for the person publishing it. So I will give one argument, which is the right for respect. Every human being has the natural basic right for respect. Once you put a person's actions on the media and put usually just a small part of it, it could be seen much different to the eyes of the person watching it. For example, the IDF has encountered many problems because of these kinds of things. One actually happened not so a while ago. Some soldiers of the IDF was filmed beating a Palestinian civilian, and the person filmed it didn't really film the whole situation. What really happened is that this civilian assaulted the soldiers and resisted an arrest. So the soldiers had the right to beat him, but the public didn't know about it. They couldn't know because they don't see the big picture. This caused a lot of, yes?
Don't you think you're talking about a bit exaggerated case?
Yes, maybe this case is a bit exaggerated, but still, in every time you post these kinds of things online, you still post a little part of it. The public still can't judge objectively like a court will do, for example. This caused a lot of hatred and unrespectful sayings all over the world about those soldiers, and with no right excuse. This is just one example of many different situations when these kinds of things happen. Okay, the disrespect and the judgment doesn't really end on the person doing those kinds of actions. It also can affect his family and his reputation as a whole, and we know that we have the right to keep our good reputation without any person hurting it. Okay. We believe that the hand of the law should be the thing handling these cases, and not the public who doesn't know how to deal with it, and most of the time judges unobjectively. We know that the hand of the law can be a bit lacking and maybe not all the time very good, but we don't think that. But still, by the reasons I mentioned and by the reasons my deputy will give, we believe that you should ban public shaming. Thank you.
So hello everyone, my name is Shachar and today I'm speaking on the opposition side and on the behalf of the freedom of speech. Today on my speech I'm going to tell you and to show you how the freedom of speech hurts from the government's suggestion, and how mass criticism will hurt and, bad politicians will elect. But first of all, I'm going to rebut what the previous speaker said. So the previous speaker said that the public shaming on the social networks shows us a small picture and leads to misjudge of the situation. But it works for both sides. It can work for the IDF and it can work against it. Also, there is a censorship in Israel, and it's very heavy. Censorship from the side of the government, censorship from the side of IDF, and our public shaming on the social network is the way to get past through it. If some Palestinian civilian get beaten for no reason, and you have it filmed by the IDF, of course, and you have it filmed, he can post it online and to show it to other countries that can help and can help all Palestinians civilians to prevent this situation. Also, it leads to good stuff happens, like the tent protest. The tent protest that happened in 2011 would not happen if we didn't have the mass criticism online. If we wouldn't have it, no one would judge Bibi Netanyahu, which I'm sure very hurt from this situation, and no one will correct this thing that the apartment costs so much. No one will tell him what's bad, what's good, because we can't express ourselves. We can't show the world and our country what done to us. So the freedom of speech, which is my argument, is very, very important in Israel specifically. In Israel, the elections are very tight. Last elections we had 61 against 59. One elector that we vote for him because of misjudging, because we didn't saw what he did before the elections, can lead our countries to a bad ruler, to a bad prime minister, for example. If Israel Katz, for example, would not judge, if we wouldn't judge Israel Katz on the Facebook, just a sec, if we would not judge Israel Katz on the Facebook, most of the people will not be able to unite against him and against his actions. Yes.
Don't you think that we have better legal ways to see if our prime minister is a criminal?
First of all, it's still legal. Your suggestion didn't work yet. And we do have some other ways, but it's לא בהכרח better ways. We have the newspaper and we have the TV. But in the TV, I can say what I want. Only the people work there. And only the people work in the newspaper can say what they want in there. If I'm saying something and if I write on Facebook, for example, it will be published to all the world. Many people will share it. Many people will watch the misjudge done with me. And in this way, we can lead to justice. Also, if I'm wrong, and it may be, people have the right to express themselves, have the right to be heard, have the right to tell everyone what they feel, what they want, even if a politician or the whole IDF is getting a little bit hurt. We're preventing the real injustice happen in our world, and this is the way we can get over the censorship, which is so big in Israel. And this is why we shouldn't ban the freedom of speech. This is why we shouldn't ban public shaming on social networks. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Danielle. I'm going to be the deputy of the proposition today. First of all, we heard from the opposition side that there are a check of the media that is uploaded, of the posts that uploaded. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it's not true. there are so many posts and videos that nobody can actually see all of them. It's simply can't be. Second of all, we heard that the freedom of speech is so much important. I'm sorry, but I see a lot of different ways to express yourself. You can do it in many, many other ways. It don't have to be in a way that hurts someone. We also heard that we can't judge politicians because we cannot do shaming on the internet. Again, there are news, as the opposition said, that there are news that are actually checked. We can see on the news the full picture. And yes, maybe there are good sides, but they're really minor. They're really minor if we look on the other side when we hurt people. Now for my argument. The judgment of the public on the social networks is unobjective. We all can agree about it. We can never see the full picture. We can never understand the situation, and we can never see what led to this situation to happen. Let's talk now about what is so bad about an objective judgment. Well, I have 3 reasons for that. First of all, you hurt the reputation of the person in the eye of the society, which is very uncomfortable and not good. Second of all, you give the society false information and knowledge, so they can actually understand our world and the situation here. One more major reason is that an objective judgment is bad because the right. Not now, thank you. Because the right of fair procedure. We all can agree with me that when the evidence are taken from the net and nobody actually checked it and nobody know if it's the full story or not, it's very hard for the person to prove that that this evidence are wrong. Do you remember the example that Yasmin gave you about the army? Yes, maybe this example is a little bit big, so let me give you another example that is talk about smaller cases. You probably all heard in the last time about an Ethiopian woman that posted a post in the media that she received a racist treatment in one of the government office. She was wrong, and the treatment that she was given was not because of the fact she was Ethiopian, but the fact that there was a lot of pressure in this time in this office. She posted it on the internet, and guess what? This man she blamed by being racist ended up suicide. So there are a lot of other not so big examples that that we can see that totally hurt the person, and I can see the benefits of the situation. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm going to divide my speech to a few parts. In the start, I'll comment about some of the things that the opposition said, and later on, I'll present the 2 points I have. So, about what you said, you claimed that it causes an objective judgment, and thus it hurts fair procedure and hurts the individual. Now, our side says that yes, it might hurt the individual, but it has a lot more profit to the society. And this will be my entire speech explaining. Now, another point is that it hurts fair procedure. Now, fair procedure is something that is very objective to see, because right now in the law enforcement system, there is a lot of red tape and a lot of influence. So sometimes an outside pressure actually causes more fair procedure than hurting it. So to my point. My main point is that public shaming serves as a motor in the machine called justice. So the law system, as it is now, and how it's being enforced, it isn't perfect. It has flaws and it can't be everywhere. And actually, as I said before, there is a lot of red tape before putting someone in jail or putting someone under arrest. Now, the thing that is everywhere, the thing that actually always there when wrong is done is people. Because when the wrong is done, there is always someone the wrong is done to. Now, as Shachar mentioned before, the freedom of speech allows people to complain and criticize the wrongs that are done to them, the wrongs that are hurting them in their everyday lives, and that's a big part of democracy. So the mass criticism actually wakes up the system and calls for the system to work faster, to actually give the person who sexually harassed one girl a bigger punishment rather than just listening to the higher windows and lowering the punishment. So the mass criticism wakes up the system and oils its wheels, allowing justice. Now, when I say justice, it sounds like a big, huge word. But when we mean justice, it's usually social justice, someone that wrong is being done to, and have a pitzui, and have something in return for the wrong that has been done to. We're not only talking about the huge cases and the extreme cases as the government does, we're talking about the everyday life and the times that the little person is getting hurt and he tries to say something about it. So when something bad is done and people will protest about it, and when they will protest about it, then it will pressure the system to work better, to work harder, and to actually give the justice that needs to be done. My second point is that it hurts the democracy. Now, how does that hurt the democracy? It sounds like a really big thing. Now, as Shachar mentioned before, freedom of speech. Now, freedom of speech is a trivial part of democracy, but there is a bit more, because democracy is the ruling of the people that are being represented in the government. Now, that suggestion suggests that we take, in some way, the people's voice, the way that the people can use their voice and to talk and say something about the wrongs that are being done to them. Now, when the ruling of the people take the people's voice, it kind of hurts democracy and kind of contradicts itself. Yes?
Don't you think that by saying it's hurt the democracy, you're a little bit out of the picture? Because I know that democracy is the sound of the civilians, but the sound of the civilians who doesn't see the whole photo is not exactly correct.
Okay, but there is not a whole photo. There is never a whole photo. And the thing is, there are so many photos and so many cases and pictures that we can't allow ourselves to get stuck on one picture and ignore the justice for the rest of them. There are a lot of cases, and the thing is that with the mass and criticism and actually the public shaming, it causes the system to move further to answering more pictures, to giving more justice in more places. Now, to conclude what I said, public shaming promotes justice when the law it just isn't enough, and it hurts the democracy by contradicting itself as the ruling of the people. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Orin, and I'm the whip of the proposition. First of all, I heard a lot of things from the opposition about the freedom of speech. But the freedom of speech and judgment by people who cannot see the whole image of a case is irrelevant, because when you not see everything, you are unobjective. You don't see everything. It means that you see some part and judge by this little part. And judging a whole case for a little part is not justice. The opposition defined the judgment of a lot of civilians as justice, and this is a wrong decision, because when you define justice by people who doesn't understand the whole image and doesn't understand the whole law, this is not the definition of justice. This is wrong. Uploading a video or an image of a person who did something that can be totally legal and shaming him and saying, this is wrong, he is an idiot or whatever, this is wrong, this is shaming, and this is hurting the basic right that everyone has, which is the right of respect. And by the other hand, the opposition are saying we have the right to express ourselves, but expressing ourselves through hurting other people is not the way to express ourselves. There are a lot and many other ways to express ourselves without hurting anyone. Hurting people is not a world that we want to live in. We don't want to live in a place that everybody can hurt anyone and saying it's okay. Yes.
You don't want to hurt people, but but bad is being done, and we want to give the people the ability to comment about it.
I know that, but when you take a photo, you don't see the whole image, and when you think something bad has been done, it might not be true, because it might be for a good reason, and it might be still legal. You don't know the whole rules. You're not a judge in a court. Okay. Another wrong hatzara that the opposition said is that there is a check on each and every post that's uploaded. No, because if there was a check, we weren't sitting here and debating about it, because we still have shaming, okay? If someone is checking everything, we have no problem. That issue of shaming as a whole is so big, and it caused a lot of bad situations, and in extreme cases it's caused even suiciding. So why shouldn't we stop it? As a government, we should protect our civilians and stop things that are hurting them. No. The opposition also said that the news doesn't show us everything, but the news filters sometimes be good. The people on the news know what they're doing, and they know what the audience should see to have an objective image, and what they shouldn't. Not now. And another big thing that the opposition deputy said, and really I don't get it, is that shamings bring conscience, and conscience brings justice. But how can justice come if we don't see the whole image? How can we judge objectively if we don't see the problem as a whole, if we don't see the case as a whole? We cannot judge something without knowing everything about it. This is wrong, and this is not fair to the person who is getting hurt because of it. And we're hurting people, a lot of people, because of that shaming. This is a problem, and we, as a government, should solve it, and we have the power to solve it. So why shouldn't we? To conclude everything I've said, I want to just tell you that we have the power to stop people from getting hurt. We, as a government, our purpose is to keep people from getting hurt. So by accepting our motion, we are basically giving our government the power of doing what her purpose is. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Matan, and I am the opposition whip. Today, I would like to start by doing a few things. The first thing I would like to do is go over what the government has stated, and I would like to show you either why they're wrong, why what they said wasn't exactly logical, or why the net benefits weigh in our favor. So, we've heard a few main things from the government about problems in the status quo and what's going to happen once we change it. And we've heard this in two main parts. First, that public shaming is based only on a small part of the image. And the second thing they've told us a lot about is the right of every person for respect. So I would like to start with the small part of the image. We, as people, have told, we as the opposition have told you that we can't be stuck on a single picture in order and judge every single one of the pictures perfectly and always get to the right conclusion. This is why we have people go into prison even though they didn't really do anything. Vered has cleared this, I think, very well, and I would not go over that again. Vered has stated that the small part of the image is something that might exist, but in most cases, that just isn't what happens. And the second thing, the second main point that you've told us about is everybody's right for respect. Well, we agree that people have a right to respect, and in this case, it may get offended, but we have shown you, like Shachar said, the right for freedom of speech, and as Vered showed, how the law of freedom of speech is a part of democracy. So we may be hurting a few people's respect, but we are protecting the freedom of speech, and we're protecting democracy. As a democratic state, we believe that we should continue doing this and continue protecting the freedom of speech, in order for everyone to be able to say what they said. So another very, very big part of this debate is talking about the single person who gets disrespected or the public who can benefit so much from the status quo. So the government has told us that we might be disrespecting the single person. We're hurting their feelings by public shaming them. And this, again, might be true, but we think that the benefits for the whole public that come out of all the things that are taken by public shaming, for instance, the Mechat Milki, or how the people on the airplane with the chocolate, you know that scenario, how they have been shamed and then they changed their behavior. Yes?
How can you consider misjudgment as a benefit for the public?
I'm not considering misjudgment as a benefit for the public. I'm just considering the speed of the judgment as a benefit for the public because of 2 points. First, that the judgment doesn't takes way too long, like Vered told you. And second, because we can still judge, like we always do, based on the same amount of information that we get. Even in a court, we don't have the full information. Vered told you this very well in her speech. So, in this debate, we've showed you that we have a few main big clashes, and I would like to go over those. So the opposition, the opposition told you how the status quo is protecting the freedom of speech, how it is protecting democracy, and how great that is working for us right now. And the government has told us about the right for respect. But when you get to the right of freedom of speech and the right to live in a democratic state, the right of respect is something that's very, very small, and you don't really, the net benefits of the public gaining from a democratic state, or a few people getting hurt and being disrespected, are really, you can tell that democracy just would be way more important. So we've told you why the part of respect is lesser than freedom of speech and democracy, and Vered has told you how all about the justice and why it should be, why people should be judged in public shaming, why public shaming would bring to a faster conclusion of the judgment, why public shaming would be a good way of judgment, and we think that this would really work considering how it's working right now with the examples we've given you, with the tent protests or the Milky protests. So in conclusion, We are protecting democracy, we are protecting the freedom of speech, and we are creating a better society in which the public has a right to judge. So this is why we, as the opposition, believe we should keep the status quo and continue with public shaming. Thank you very much.